the room with a red light. The minute Evelyn unlocked her new apartment, she knew something was off. The space had a strange layout. Walls at odd angles, shadows stretching longer than they should, and a single window overlooking an alley. But she shrugged it off. She needed a fresh start, and this rundown studio was the only place she could afford. On her first night, as she unpacked under the dim glow of a single bulb, something caught her eye through the window. Across the alley, in a narrow, abandoned building, a red light blinked steadily from an upper floor. It wasn't unusual for forgotten buildings to have old alarms, she thought. But as she moved around her apartment, the light seemed to blink at her, following her movements. Its steady pulse was strangely hypnotic, and she found herself staring at it far longer than she intended. By her second week, the red light was all she could think about. Her paintings, once filled with vivid color and life, became darker, angrier. She started using streaks of red that felt uncomfortably familiar, like blood smearing across the canvas. And each night, she'd find herself at the window, staring at the light, convinced it was signaling her somehow. She began to notice patterns in the blinking. A slower pulse when she was still, a faster one when she paced, as if the light were watching her. Then came the whispers. They started as faint murmurs from behind her walls, just as she was drifting to sleep. Her heartbeat would race, but when she strained to listen, the apartment would fall silent. Every night, she lay in bed, her heart racing as faint whispers seeped through the walls. She'd convince herself it was just the old building settling. But deep down, she knew something was very wrong. Finally, one night, she could take it no longer. Clad in a heavy coat, she ventured out, crossing the empty street and entering the abandoned building. The silence was overwhelming, the air thick with dust and decay. She climbed the creaky stairs, each step feeling like it was dragging her deeper into something she couldn't escape. As she neared the floor with the red light, the whispers returned. Louder now, echoing off the crumbling walls. Her skin crawled, but she pushed on, compelled by a force she couldn't explain. She reached the room at the end of the hall, where the red light pulsed steadily from behind a closed door. Taking a deep breath, Evelyn pushed it open. Inside, the room was empty, save for a single red lamp casting a dim glow. But the walls, they were covered in photos. Dozens, maybe hundreds of faces stared back at her, each one faded and yellowed with age. As she stepped closer, she realized something unsettling. Every person's eyes had been scratched out, leaving haunting, hollow expressions. In the center of the wall, she saw a photo that stopped her cold. It was her childhood home. Memories she had buried long ago surfaced. A cold winter night, a blinking red light from her bedroom window. A family friend who had disappeared without a trace. The same friend who used to bring her little gifts and tell her bedtime stories. She'd tried to forget, to bury the unsettling feeling that something terrible had happened. But now it was all rushing back. Clutching the photo, she stumbled back to her apartment, desperate for answers. She barely slept at night, plagued by nightmares of scratched-out faces, red lights, and the whispers of someone calling her name. By dawn, she knew what she had to do. She returned to the abandoned building, her pulse racing as she climbed the stairs. The door to the room with the red light was slightly ajar, as if waiting for her. The lamp flickered, casting eerie shadows on the wall, and the whispers grew louder, more insistent. As she stepped inside, the door swung shut behind her, locking her in darkness. The whispers grew to a deafening roar, and in the pitch black, a voice she hadn't heard since childhood whispered, "You found me." Evelyn's scream died in her throat as the red light blinked out, leaving her alone in the suffocating dark. The next morning, the landlord entered her apartment, curious why her rent had gone unpaid. Everything was untouched, just as Evelyn had left it, except for the narrow building across the alley, where a single red light blinked steadily from an upper floor. Thank you for joining me on this chilling journey through the room with a red light. If you enjoyed the story and want more spine-tingling tales, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new upload. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below. What do you think the red light truly was? Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and keep the shadows at bay.